So our lecture now is on passive reconnaissance. That first half of recon, and this is really where we are not directly interacting with our target, and that's the biggest I think takeaway to kind of understand here. Maybe two parts. One, that it's nonlinear, just like everything else in pen testing. Right? It's going to be a cyclical thing where everything that you look at next depends on what you've seen before. But also, right, there's two different kinds of ways we can describe it. One where you never communicate with your target, and one where you kind of communicate with your target just with some kind of normal interaction. So the idea kind of being there, um, I'm not going to, like, say I'm trying to target the website bonobos.com. Maybe I would look at the DNS records and the WHOIS records of bonobos.com, but I don't actually interact with the website. Or, you could say, well, a normal user interacting with the website, they would never know, right? So normal user things like browsing the website, if there's a way you can make an account, making an account, but not actually doing anything like offensive, like testing any payloads or testing any vulnerabilities, just normal interaction, right? Can you see the about page? Can you see emails, stuff like that? My definition right now is going to be that more loose one where you can have some normal interactions with your target, just so that we're clear. But there's no right or wrong answer. But I think it's important that we're clear on how we're defining things. And I'm saying normal interaction with a website. That's still considered to me to be passive recon. All right, so what are we talking about today? We're going to talk about the tools. The specific ones we're going to be looking at today are Google, right? So we're going to level up those Google skills. We're going to look at the Harvester, a command line tool. I believe that should be an uppercase H because I think the lowercase one's deprecated. We're going to look at WHOIS, right? Who is the command, who is the database, right? We're going to look at the Netcraft website, which is pretty cool. And we'll use recon ng, which is this cool framework that has a whole bunch of different features that you can play around with. And finally, as we end all our lectures with a summary. So what is passive recon? It's this cyclical process of getting as much information you can about a specific target. And the big caveat to this is that it's all publicly available. Anyone can get this information, right? So that's the rub of it, right? It's scoping out the place essentially. It's getting a footprint of the target. It's understanding who's there. It's understanding what the attack surface actually is. It's putting shape to who our target is. And so what does that look like? Well, a big part is identifying what it is, identifying their assets. So what is their footprint? Where are they on the internet? How big are they? What does that mean? So what domains do they have? And what subdomains off of that domain do they have? Right? Full Stack Academy and cyber.fullstack academy, but of any other subdomains off of Full Stack Academy? What is the IP range of that network? That might be worth knowing. What third-party information you can find out. Who does this company work with? Who do they host their code with? What services and third-party services do they use, right? Who are their employees? Because you can get information about the company through them. And so really it's, this is why I love this, this phase, these couple of days of information gathering, because it's really, you got to feel like this. And sometimes you feel like this where you don't know how all of these things are connected, but you got to believe that they all really are, right? You're putting everything together, all of these different pieces, putting the threads together. So let's take a look at the first tool I want you guys to be familiar with and upgrade your skill on, and that is Google. And, this is called Google hacking. You'll sometimes see this called Google dorking. And this is adding or being particularly clever with your search operators. So we already know, you could just type in your questions into Google and type enter and find things, but you could also look for more specific things by adding these filters. So you're using these operators to limit the results that Google brings back to you. And the big popular ones, the ones that are pretty useful, are site, file type, in URL, and in title. There are obviously much more to them than that, and I'll give you a good resource that you should bookmark to to use. But the idea here is we're going to use Google publicly available stuff that's already indexed, but filter down much better than you normally would using these advanced terms. I'll show you a couple of demos towards the end. Other tools or other operators is the minus operator. Right? So excluding things, I don't want any of this type of file. I don't want anything, right? I'm trying to think of, always on the spot now, of a word that means two different things, but you're not looking for a particular one, right? You can exclude certain things, certain terms, right? You can group certain terms together, this or this. You can either use the or keyword, or you can use the actual bars, just like programming. You can use the and filter too. Now, I'm pretty sure when you have spaces, that is an implicit and, right? Find this and this in the resource. But I'm not completely sure. It might be subtle differences. But again, the idea here is using a clever search string and combination of search strings and operators to level up your Google searching. And again, I'll show you some cool things. We'll show you how to find some password dumps on Google or something. Okay. Other things you're going to be looking for is the source code. We've already kind of looked at front-end source code, right? The JavaScript, when you view the source of a web page. But there's more than just that front-end source code, right? It might be an open source project, right? You might be able to view their code on GitHub or GitLab, one of those resources, right? Did they fork their repo from somewhere else? And you can kind of look at what the information, maybe they're using an older version, maybe there's vulnerabilities on that older version, right? We're already familiar with looking at the client side JavaScript, right? We right click and view there the client side information, right? Look at that source. How does this actually work? Right. I want you guys to understand hacking is already hard, right? You got to learn how to like read all of this stuff too, right? So that you understand how it's working. It's like trying to figure out how to hack something without reading the instruction manual. Sometimes you kind of got to read the instruction manual and piece things apart. Usually when you're doing this though, right, there's a whole lot of text to look through. There's a whole lot of code to look through. I can't look through all of it. So I have to be clever with how I look through it, right? So of course, grep is going to be your friend and continue to be your friend as you're looking through large code repositories, right? You want to see how this application handles authentication or where it stores passwords or how it stores them. Why don't I grep through that whole repository for words like auth or passwd or API, right? Or like anything like that. And then maybe I could find those relevant files and start, narrowing down my search, right? You want to be clever with what you're looking for, but reading the source code is absolutely crucial, right? And it's going to be a skill we're going to need for PWK. Other things that are involved in open source reconnaissance is, the people looking at things on LinkedIn, right? Checking out what the organization is on LinkedIn, who that organization follows and who follows them, right? See who works for the organization, see those people that work and what, you could bet if the organization just hired, 5 engineers and they all seem to have the same sort of background using the same technology. Well, I bet that organization is doing something with that technology, right? Kind of piecing things together like that from the human aspect, right? Look at what projects they have on their accounts, look at their GitHub, right? Kind of be a little bit creepy because all this stuff is public. So, it's not creepy, I guess. So other tool you'll be playing with today is called the Harvester. I believe, again, I'm going to fix the slide, should have a capital H. This is used for harvesting emails and IP addresses, right? Sometimes useful if you're trying to capture kind of like phishing campaign or something like that. It uses the web to search for emails, IPs, host names, and stuff like that. You specify which search engine you want to use and how many pages deep you want to search, and you'll be able to get some hits sometimes. Right, it's open source, so you can actually look at the code and see how it works. It's already in Kali, and it's a well-known tool. Other tool you're going to interact with today is Whois. I believe some of you may have solved one of the earlier DNS problems like 2 weeks ago using Whois, right? Whois is a command, and it's also a database of of DNS registrars. So you can get DNS information from Whois, right? Who owns a domain name? That's oftentimes public. At least it much more used to be. Nowadays, when you buy a domain name, you're usually buying it from some company and they kind of protect your personal information. This more so, I think, if you're buying domain names in Europe where they care a bit more about personal information. But you can find public stuff just by searching the whois and seeing who owns certain domain names, right? It's a record of ownership. It's great for disputes, for knowing who is the actual person that owns a domain name. I want to say there's recently someone who had been opening a whole bunch of domain names of like, liberate certain state, like liberate Michigan, liberate something like that. They were trying to find out who it was. They were looking through who is to find out who was buying them. I think it was someone buying them so that other people didn't, sort of thing. But again, this stuff's public. You can use whois to find it. Right, so registrar, name server, sometimes write their full contact information, talking like phone numbers, emails, stuff like that. Again, all considered passive recon. Other tool you'll work at today is Netcraft. This one's pretty cool because it's really easy to use. It's a right through the web interface. It's this, I want to say UK-based company that just really hoards a lot of information, public information on any particular website. I'll show you an example. We'll look at my personal website and see the stuff that you can see that's public on it. But again, you get DNS information, tracking information, right? Who their CDN or content distribution network is, what software is running on that web server, and all kinds of stuff like that, just by typing in the name of a web server that you're interested in, typing in a domain name. Real cool. And then the final tool that I will show you today is recon-ng. This one is a bit more advanced, and to really get a lot of value out of it, you generally are going to need an API key. But it uses it for both passive and active recon. It has different modules. So you'll specify which module you want to do. Some are passive, some are active. You have to read them and understand what they do so you can make your own distinction. I don't know if this is still true. To install all modules, that is true. I don't know if you guys do have a dated version of PWK, or excuse me, a dated version of this in PWK. I have to see which ones they send you. But that command is correct. And if not, we'll be able to Google it and figure it out. Right, it has, and this will make more sense as I actually demonstrate to it, but I want you to think of it as you kind of, to use it, it's a little program in and of itself, recon-ng, where you kind of step into the program, you download modules, you set those modules, you set the different parameters or options for those modules, and then you hit run, and then it does things. So pretty cool. I'll give you an example, and you'll be able to take a look at some of them yourself, at least ones that don't require API keys. So summary of what all this passive recon stuff is. One, it relies on gathering information about the target without actually contacting the target, right? So we're not actually engaging with our target yet. Maybe we're going on their website, maybe we're making a user account, but we're not doing anything hacky yet. And we can gather all of this, like a tremendous amount of information, really, from public sources. Common public sources you'll see on different like cool YouTube videos and stuff from DEF CON would be like people using Google Maps to find like the physical locations of places and see if there's like, any guard posts or things like that. There's a pretty big hack on MyFitnessPal a few years ago. And that exposed the location of a lot of military bases. A lot of soldiers were using this app to track their jogging and stuff like that. And you'd be able to pretty much just see a hot map, right? In places in the middle of the nowhere with straight lines, people jogging that were military bases. You could totally check that out. Google it. Really cool stuff. And, we're going to use some tools like recon-ng and the harvester to get these credentials, to build that footprint, to understand the attack surface of our target, right? To build and find out how we can actually get in, Cool. Tons of different sources. GitHub is going to be great. There's going to be a whole bunch of different places to look. And remember, this is not linear. This is cyclical. So it's not like going to feel like you're going to just be making progress in a forward direction. It's going to feel like you're kind of maybe making progress in a whole bunch of different directions, and you don't necessarily know what's super important yet until the end. Cool. So let's do some demo. So we'll go here. One second. Okay. Cool. So let's do some demos. We're going to go Google some stuff. Just go to Google. It's a little larger. So what's useful? The file type, all right, is, or really, I should just show you a whole list of these. If you go to exploit DB, Google exploit DB, and search Google hacking. Here you'll find this Google hacking database link. Maybe load, please. We'll go to it maybe. So say I wanted to find PDF type files. I can limit or tell Google to limit specifically to that file type by adding the file type operator. So say I wanted PDFs from, in URL nyt.com. I'm pretty sure New York Times is nyt.com. It's nytimes.com. Right, and let's see what comes up. And you'll notice now every link is to a PDF style document, right? I can actually go and click it. It'll take me to PDF style documents. Is this directly useful to me? Maybe. Not right now, though. This is one way you can limit things. Perhaps you're looking for a particular type of file of code, maybe like PHP. And then, I don't know if New York Times uses that. No, this one's not popping up, but sometimes you can look for a certain type of file, like PHP, and like add in URL from a particular website. Used to be able to find things on YouTube, but I don't think you get too many hits anymore. Right, you can use the OR operator, but I think what is usually exciting is when we see more clever things, like say you're looking for password dumps. So one thing you might want to search for is like in text, password and in text, I'll use and in text at gmail.com and see what happens. This one's not as good, right? We're getting some hits on gmail.com, but the more clever way is, I don't know if you are familiar with the site Pastebin. For some reason, people love posting password dumps in there. So I usually find some every cohort that are relatively fresh. Let's see if we could go to the last month. Oh, nothing new in the last month. Well, at least we got something here from 2020. Maybe I wanted to build an app that, finds people's common passwords and builds a password database so that I can use this. I want to make the new RockU for the year. So I'm going to find raw password dumps. I'm not going to blow this up so you see them, but there are passwords here and you can just kind of Google and find password dumps. Right? You can crawl and search for different kinds of information like this. And it's just a matter of being clever. Now, other people are already pretty clever, and they've posted some of their clever Google dorking queries down inside this Google hacking database. And of course, you gotta kind of pay attention to what you're looking for. But this guy, let's see, Sanu Jose made like searching in URL view.html. Let's see, what do I find here? Let's try it. This should find things in URL as HTML and camera. Oh yeah, you'll notice today that Google will totally throttle you pretty often as you start making more of these non-normal person queries. Let's see, we're gonna find people's cameras that are left open or something. It looks like this with these are all links too. Yeah, these might be public cameras that you can see. But you can take a look, all different kinds of clever ones, even give you the ability to search for how other people have found things. But again, we're just using Google. We're just using, search strings and different kinds of operators and being particularly clever with it. I've definitely seen some cool blog posts where people have used this to like search people's GitHub boards. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen swim lanes, which is like people would get assigned tickets and like literal little pieces of paper that have some job they have to do on it, and they slowly move it across a board as they complete it. Sometimes these are public when they shouldn't be, and you'll be able to find information from folks. Other cool things you can use Google for is sometimes people post or update their put things on GitHub that should not be on GitHub, that should not be public. And you can search for things through there. People sometimes leave their API keys on there. All kinds of things that should be secret, people accidentally post on the internet. And using Google and a particularly clever, query, you might be able to find those things. So I want you guys to, at the very least, be aware of that. Right? You can play around with these. It seems like I'm not getting a hit with this, but you can play around. Next tool I want to show you is Netcraft. And this is one all through the web. So it's pretty cool, very easy to use. The one that I'm most familiar with, you go to resources, was it tool, search DNS? Yeah, resources, search DNS. And I encourage you to take a look and play with the other cool things they have on the site. And you just go ahead and add a host name and it will give you information on it. So I tried this just this morning with my personal site. So I wanted to see what comes up when I do it. So let's say it does a basic query for you, interacts with the site and gets you some information, gives you the title of the site, tells you how risky the site is. Look, guys, my site's pretty safe. It's 1 out of 10 risk. Very nice, right? Tells you the site, tells you the NetBlock owner, right? So Amazon owns my IP address. You see my IPv4 address. You can see the domain, my name server. If you're paying attention, you'll notice that even though Amazon is owns my IP address, Google is who is leasing out my name server. So, you can find all kinds of things if you're able to like piece these things together, right? See my IP address. You can see where I'm getting my SSL cert and the last time I did it. Right, all kinds of cool stuff like that. See my public key hashes, all that fun stuff, all available to you using this Netcraft web GUI site.
Matt, some of the stuff will come up if we just dig your website, though, right?
Yep, absolutely, and that's a good thing. A lot of the tools we're using, not just in passive information gathering, but in active as well, are going to pull up the same information. When they don't pull up the same information, that's usually something that's interesting to us, right? Getting validation, right? These two tools gave us the same kind of results. That's like a good thing. It's like a confirmation. So yes, you will see some of these same information from running just whois or from using DNS. What's nice about this is that it gives you a whole bunch of information at once in one like nice little report kind of format that you can also download. And it has additional information. Trying to see, you can see what's running on here, right? What version of stuff I've got going on. See, I've got WordPress on it. Gives you more information. It's a pretty handy site for the open source. Any other questions on Netcraft or comments on it? It's cool. Definitely encourage you to try it. And you will try it. I'm pretty sure it's one of the PWK exercises too, to try it on something. Cool. So last one I wanted to demo you real quick before I throw you out and let you guys try these things is recon NG. I haven't used it on this version of Kali yet, so let's do it together. Yes, recon NG. And that'll take you again into this program, the recon ng program. One thing I want to note to you is it does not come with any modules installed when you first get it, right? So there's going to be nothing installed when you first get it, just some default recon ng. The other thing you'll notice is your prompt is different now. It says recon ng and it says default, right? Because I don't have a module enabled right now. So I am in the default mode. So the first thing you want to do is marketplace refresh, and this will refresh that marketplace so that you can actually, start looking for things. And you do marketplace search, and this should search the entire marketplace. Oh, this formatting is kind of gross. I might make it a little smaller. It's not better. Does that work? That work? Formatting's gross. There we go. That's much better. So if you do a marketplace search, you get a list of all of the modules on the marketplace, right? You get this nice path, what version it is, if it's installed on your current machine, and when it was last updated. You'll also see these two columns, D and K. If you ever forget what they are, you go down to the bottom and it even tells you, you have a nice little key here. D means that module has dependencies. K means that it requires API keys to use. So before I go on too much, what is, can someone give me an understanding of what's an API key?
A sort of request?
Tell me more.
I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but my understanding of APIs, they're just applications in a way that help applications to work together. They just merge other applications together. I think that's all I know.
Yes, that's definitely API. It'd definitely be an application that we'll get access to. But I guess the next question I have then is, what is an API key? What is our understanding of it?
I think it's used for authentication.
Yeah, that's not a bad way to think of it. It's very similar to the idea we have with a cookie. It is a token we're going to give the application that will give us access to the API, right? It's the key to the API. So some of these programs require a key to use their API. The notable one is this Shodan one. You need a key to be able to use it. I should also pop up Shodan too, so we have an understanding of what Shodan is. Let me come back to Shodan. Just keep this open so I remember. Hey, stop. Behave yourself, please. All right, we'll just be patient. Maybe do this trick where you bring it down, bring it back up. You like that one? No? Yeah. All right. Don't know why those things work sometimes. Sorry. Okay, so some of them require keys. These are usually paid, right? Because you need to pay to use some of these services. Like Shodan's a paid service. I'm trying to see which some of the other ones are paid service. To use Twitter's API, I believe that's a paid service. So any of the ones you want to use today, if you want to spend any money, make sure they don't have any of these, this D or K highlighted, right? If it doesn't have D or K highlighted, it's free to use. I'm sorry, life is pay to win. So what you want to do now is let's try and find one of these modules that we can use. So the one that I'm going to want to show you is a GitHub module. So you can do module marketplace search GitHub. And this will show you all of the modules that have GitHub in it. And so the one I wanted to show you was this one, obviously, because it doesn't require a key and it doesn't require any dependencies. Okay, so now that I found a module that I want to download and try out, right, the next question is how do I get it? How do I try it out? Well, I do marketplace. Well, let's say I didn't know what all the commands were for marketplace were. I could do marketplace help, and then you'll get this context kind of help menu. So if I type in marketplace, I could type in info, install, refresh, remove, and search, right? So let's say marketplace install. Let's say I didn't know I wanted more help. I know I want to install, right? Well, no, but it is giving me an argument, an error that says invalid module path. So I guess I have to give it a path. So let's try it. Marketplace install. I want this one. Recon profiles, profiler. Let's try it out. Copy, paste. Oh gosh, I almost pasted twice, but we didn't. And it looks like things happened. It said modules installed, and it's reloading modules. Okay, well, how do I use it? There's help, and this gives you this nice little menu, right? These are all the things I can do from here. Okay, well, it's not all of the things actually. I want to load one of the modules. So the command you're going to use for that is load. Load. And, or use modules, actually. I want to do modules because we're interfacing with our installed modules. So if we do module help, doesn't do it. Module install. Well, we already installed it. Modules load. And let's give it the path. Oop. Does it just load?
Does module need to be plural?
Does it say, yeah, it does. Auto complete saves you. Thank you. So try and use autocomplete to help yourself, but use modules to interact with the installed modules. I use load to actually load the module, and then you give it the path of the module you want to load. Things you'll notice right now is that my prompt is different, right? It actually has this profiler appended. So that means I'm in this profiler module. So let me see, does help context work here? Yes, it does. So what you can do is, since I have a module loaded, I want to get the info on the module. You just type info. And this gives you all the information with the module that I've got installed, right? So it's got the name of it. It's OSINT Human Profile Collector by Mika Hoffman, right? Gives you a nice description of it. What does it do? Takes each username from the profiles table and searches a variety of websites for those users. The list of valid sites comes from the parent project of this, right? So if you want to look, you can go see some of the source code where the parent project web came from. But important to us there, we see this options field, and we'll see the description of each of these options. This is important to us because these are the things we need to set before we can run the module. And you'll notice some options will be required. This one, see, required. Some options won't be. Totally depends on the module, right? And you're going to have to kind of figure out how to use each one and how to configure each one that you want to use. So again, you'll see a nice little table, right? So one option is the source, right? It's currently set as default. I have to set it. And what is the description of this? It's the source of input, right? See info for details. Well, here's the info already. So, right, let's try and figure out how to do this. Here are the options for that source. Setting a name. You can give a string, right? A string representation. I can give some kind of SQL thing. I can give a path to a file that has a list of inputs. So either a string or a path, or I could give some kind of SQL query, it looks like. Well, I'm going to do the most basic thing, which is a string. And I'm going to use this module to look up myself, an account with my information. So how do I set the options? Well, it's options, set. And then let's see if I could do help. I forget if the menu. So if I type options and then help, it'll give me how I can use the options command. And the options command lets me use list, set, or unset. So let's do options list. And this options help, options list. This lists the options that I could set. So it's what we saw before, source. I have to set it. So if we want to set it, options, set, source, and then what do we want to send it to? I'm going to set it to my GitHub handle. And it gets confirmation here. Options, set, source, and Mincer. How did I find this? I just look through help menus. Okay. How do I want to confirm? I could type info again, and I see all the info. And now when I look at the options, right, the source is now set to the string, the value that I wanted. We have a similar kind of pattern for all different kinds of modules, similar kind of pattern of loading modules and setting options when we move on and use another framework like Metasploit. So I just want to kind of get you familiar with interacting with this. Okay, so it looks like we're set, right? Our options are set. Everything that's required is set, right? I want to actually use this thing and see what it does. So I'm pretty sure it's just run, but I'm going to run help first and see. Yep, it's run. So let's run it and see what happens. Stuff's happening. Oh, very exciting. Terminals putting out output. Some red things happened. So we can go look at that. And once this is done, we'll go look at what this thing actually did for us. Or we'll do that now, I guess. So again, this is open source intelligence. So what do we expect? We expect to find everything that's public for this account, mmincer. So what this thing actually does is it looks through all these different databases from things like a 7-Cup, Cloud Guru. I don't know what some of these are, Code Wars, right? If you have an account there, right? Accounts at GitLab, Gab, whatever, any of these things, it's looking to see if there's accounts there. And then if one of them has a hit, it's just showing that to you. And maybe you want to go to this and see if that's related. It's not saying any of these things actually 100% belongs to me. It's just saying that these APIs have hits for an account that has this username. And maybe I could do more information with this, right? Again, it's a very non-cyclical process, this open source intelligence gathering. It really depends on what it is you're looking for and the step behind. What is it that you're trying to do? Not sure. Something broke here. Max retries exceeded. Not sure. Can look into it, but I want you to get out of this is, using a framework, realizing you have to install modules, set, load those modules, set parameters, and then actually run things. All right. So encourage you guys to check this out. Put your own account in here, see what comes up. Might be interesting to you. Gives you a little summary. Says, so I found 15 profiles. Maybe I'll look at those profiles or something. Questions on Recon NG?
Wait, why would you need to do like search? I don't know how to phrase it, but why would you have to like look up the username via GitHub before crawling other databases?
Why would I what?
For this one, didn't you do something with GitHub first and then use the information from GitHub?
Nope, I didn't use, I just used, I put in my GitHub handle. This is just the handle I have on GitHub and that I've used in other places. I thought maybe I have, I'm not sure if I have, but I wanted to see, right? Say you had a target username and you wanted to see if that person had any other accounts. Right? There's actually a pretty good story in the textbook that you'll get to read once you get access to it in the open source intelligence gathering section, where they were doing a penetration test on this one small company that had really no online footprint or anything like that. And they ended up finding someone that worked at this company that was really big into like stamp collecting or something like that. It was really in the stamp collecting culture. And so they built a fake stamp collecting website that was hosting some malicious code in there. I forget exactly how they got it, but they got this guy to essentially download some file And that's what gave them their access to get onto this network. And, you know, part of that is like finding this person, you know, was really into stamps or something like that. Like you don't know, right? It's very nonlinear. You don't know what's going to be the thing that helps you. So that's, I guess, what I want you to get out of this. It's very broad. I want you to get familiarity with using tools. Cool. So the last thing I want to show you is Shodan. This you generally kind of have to pay for to get the cool things, but the last 2 years at Thanksgiving, guys, they gave lifetime API keys for like $5. And I missed out, but Shodan, not Shaden. They put them on Twitter. I'll let you guys know if they do something like that again. But this searches the internet of things, right? When we search Google, you're looking at web servers, but not everything that uses IP, right? That has the internet protocol that uses the internet is on a web server, right? You have all your Internet of Things devices, you got routers, you got, you know, your toaster and your microwave and your refrigerator. All of those things are connected to the internet. And you know, they're not searchable by Google, but there's this Shodan database that you can use to actually search things. Now you could search for things like by IP, and I encourage you to kind of play around with this. Let's take a look at the pricing. Like, as you could see, this is not within our current budgets for doing things, but that's why I said, let's take a look on Thanksgiving. You might get a lifetime one for like $5. Totally worthwhile for any kind of project you might want to do when you're searching the Internet of Things. Now, I know you can search for things for free, but you just don't get that deep results. You don't get to look through like the second or third page, right? Like, just imagine if you could use Google, but you can only see things on like the first page. That's usually not so bad for Google, but for Shodan, there's a lot more you want to see. And there's some cool in recon ng marketplace search Shodan. How do I exit? No. Wanted to unload. All right, they have a bunch of these cool modules you can take a look at, but again, they need keys. For most of the cool juicy info, you need keys. So, you know, if you're working for a company that does this, they will have their own keys that you got to keep safe. But again, if this is something that's interesting to you, let's take a look in the next day, see if they give us a sale.
If you have a key, an API key for Shodan, how would you put that in?
How would you put that in? Let me demonstrate.
Because I think I did get the Thanksgiving thing last year.
Shodan key, not Shodan. Info. Let's see. I think we have to load one that needs a key. So let's try. Marketplace install. Let's try this one. I don't know exactly what this does, but I just know that it needs a key.
They said on their Twitter that they're not doing it this year. The Black Friday deal.
Oh, way to bring the bad news. Very sad.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I just wanted to check, and yeah, because people have been adding them all day, I guess, asking if they're bringing it back this year.
Kicking myself for that. All right. Oh, keys add. There's this keys add keys. Yeah, so you'll do something like keys add, and then I think you give it the string of your key. I don't have any cool keys, but I think I'm pretty sure it's something like that. It's like keys add. You do keys list, and it'll show you. Right, so I think it might be keys add. Yeah, keys add the name of the key, right? So I would put like Shodan API, if that's what I'm just going to call the key, and then the value of what the key is, and the value is going to look like some blah, 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 thing like that, right?
Do you have to put that in for each one that you download, or once you put it in for Shodan, that's that?
Once you put it in for Shodan, so depending on the module you use, you'll have an option to set the key. So let's see. Let's load this module. Modules load. Give it this path. Info. I think you have to set a key somewhere. There should be keys, add. Yeah, I think once you set it, it'll be saved there, but different modules will require different keys. If you have it and you want to, and you try it later, I'm interested. I want to see what you see. So let me know. I'll help you add it.
Yeah, I have an API key if you want to jump into a room and I can go over it with you.
Cool. I think someone else had a question.
I have a question. Going back to the Google tool that you pointed out at us, is that like X-rays, like Google X-rays?
Which one? Which tool?
You mentioned that we can go to Google and we can just play around. And there's, I don't know if I got it wrong, but I think you were talking about Google Hack something that they have.
I was probably talking. If you go to exploit, yeah, no, not exploit
Like
DB
a set of-
directly.
Is that like a set of strings that we input on in Google just to find? 'Cause when I was a recruiter, we used to have this thing called Google X-rays, and we used to get email addresses, we used to get phone numbers, GitHub. We will get into GitHub accounts and just see who has the highest ranking, what kind of repos they have. Even if it's private, there was we were able to get lots of information from a candidate that we were targeting.
So that sounds like something. I need to see
Boolean-
exactly.
Boolean strings that we used to use, but I don't know if it's the same thing that you were talking about.
That sounds similar. That sounds similar, right? Google hacking is just using strings and and more advanced operators like file type or in URL operators to search for something more specific. So if you're telling me all you did was put in certain strings in Google for things that you were looking for, then yeah, that's Google dorking. I'll see if I can find that blog post where people were finding passwords and API keys just from Google dorking. And relatively recently too, I want to say at least in 2020, definitely in 2019 was when I saw stuff like that.